How are we doing in quarantine? Welcome back to After Hour Happy Hour. We are your chaotic but cathartic co-hosts. I'm Jamila.
I'm Vicky.
I'm Sharon.
And for today, we are doing on the topic of quarantine, such
We
as...
are doing on the topic, ma'am.
She's doing great already.
And for today, we're talking about quarantine, such as how we're doing quarantine, how has quarantine been for us, are we surviving, are we thriving, are we languishing, all that good stuff about quarantine, and any plans for us when we come out of quarantine. Yeah.
So, how are we staying sane during quarantine right now?
We're not.
I'm not. So...
Are any of us okay? Are the three of us okay at all, period?
I don't know how deep we're gonna get on this episode, but I mean, you guys know this is like literally the lowest I ever been in my life in terms of emotions.
Laughing after that sentence.
Dude, you know, this is just my personality, okay? Like, in the moment, I get really sad and stuff, but then afterwards, when I jump out of that sadness, I just laugh about everything and just take it more lighthearted, you know?
That's true. It comes in waves.
Yeah.
Yeah, surviving, I'm not thriving.
Literally the motto of 2021 or some shit. Something is in the air and we're not okay.
COVID's in the air, and that's why we're not okay.
That's true.
And I feel like people might think I'm thriving, but I'm really not.
Dude, I literally sent a TikTok to Jam and it was like, oh, how everyone thinks my 2021 is going. And it's like rainbows and butterflies, but then how it actually is going, it's just like mental breakdown every now and then.
Tears.
Yeah.
Sharon, have you cried over quarantine?
I have actually. Fairly
Like a
recent.
lot?
No.
Oh my god, over what?
Basically, for me, like, quarantine was fine up until just, like, you know, I was over being home. I wanted to be alone, like, move out of home kind of thing. And I've been in Seattle for, like, a month now. And the first week or so was fine. But then work-wise just kind of got to me. I'm sincerely at a point where I don't enjoy my work. Okay, basically for context, the older I get, the more sure I am of like what I don't want to do and what I think I want to do. And also like recently like quit Amazon and he's basically starting at a new company that's like really, really prioritizes mental health. He didn't make it to his 2-year mark, and the things that he was just telling me like aligned with like my morals of like, why do you need to stay at a company just to pass like a certain mark when you know you can be doing more somewhere else kind of thing. And also just like me not probably doing as much work as I should have in the past couple months, and then it catching up to me, and I have things to do that I really don't want to do. I guess I was holding it in for a while because last week, was it last week? 2 weeks ago maybe? Yeah, like Jam texted me and was like, oh, do you want to do work? Because sometimes every now and then like we'll Zoom during work to do work, but like just have each other. And I was like, sure. And then I like we were on Zoom and I was like talking to her about work, and then out of nowhere I just started crying about like quarantine and work and all this stuff, and I was like, I guess I'm not okay. Because I normally don't cry unless I'm like angry and like fighting with my parents. So it was weird. But yeah, I'm not thriving.
So Sharon and I have been going through the same kind of emotional roller coaster ever since we started corporate. I would say because I started a month before her, I went through every month before her. So then you were like expressing that like work has been stressful, and I kind of had a sense like, oh, I think she's going through it. That's why I like messaged you like, oh, do you want to have a work break right now or something?
Yeah. It was also because like us three text pretty frequently, but for a certain time like I just wasn't really talking because I was doing work or had other things on my mind. Basically though, like Jam and I feel like have gone through every single wave of the pandemic together. She just did it earlier than me. Like I remember one time she called me and she's like, I don't even know why I'm crying. And then I said the exact same thing last week. I was like, I wasn't expecting to cry, but here I am.
It was literally identical because I also tend to just close off whenever I'm feeling sad, even though I'm the type of person who needs external like energy to boost my mood back up. But then when I'm in that sadness, I just shut everyone out. So then I guess when I actually talked to Sharon, everything just like came out.
Yeah. It was the same thing for you too. Like you were like pretty inactive in our group chat, and I was gonna text Vicky like, "Yo, has Jam like is something been up?" But then I was like, I'm gonna give it one more day, and then something happened where I ended up texting you or you texted me, and then we ended up FaceTiming, and then yeah. I just for us like I don't know if it's because of work or if it's because of being stuck at home all day kind of thing, or a variation of all the above.
For me personally, I think it's a mix of both. Like being stuck at home and literally haven't seen any of my friends since August. Just not, even though like we FaceTime and stuff, it's still very different than hanging out with someone in person and just being able to have that complete freedom like I did before COVID. I think I just feel like stuck physically and mentally.
Do you feel, or both of you guys, do you feel like COVID would be different if you weren't working your current job?
See, I thought about, I was like, what if I like didn't have this job? I feel like I will be super stressed. Like as much as I'm like, oh, I don't enjoy like corporate, I'm still very grateful that I have this job because actually just today I saw a new graduate and he's like been struggling and stuff. And it kind of was a reminder to myself like how lucky I am to have a job. But I think if I didn't have COVID, or I think if we didn't have COVID, then I'd be a lot more okay with how I feel about my job right now.
I feel like as shitty as this current situation is, I can't imagine having to go into work. Like I feel like that'd be 10 times worse for me. So as much as like I'm frustrated with staying home sometimes or like not being able to, see people or all the above, like a part of me is like if I had to go into work 5 days a week, I feel like that's just
I'll cry.
yeah.
Oh,
Because like when we go back into work, like I only have to go in 3 days a week. So I'm like so grateful for that because had it not been for the pandemic, who knows, like maybe everybody would still have to go into work every single day. And so like blessing in disguise in that aspect. But I feel like my life right now, metaphorically speaking, is literally tug of war. A part of me knows I want to pursue this, but then a part of me is battling with this, and then a part of me is like, I feel guilty about wanting this when I should be grateful, blah, blah, blah. But then I never said I wasn't grateful. And like, dude, I'm not even saying anything right now. Like, I'm not even voicing it correctly. But at the same time, I'm saying so much.
it makes sense.
If you get
yeah.
it. But yeah.
Yeah, I feel like you guys cannot be the only people feeling that about like your jobs. I think COVID changed a lot for people.
Yeah. I mean, we could go back to that. But Vicky, how are you doing with
Yeah.
COVID?
Wait, I was a quick comment. Vicky looked like our therapist at first.
Oh,
When me and
so
Sharon just talked.
therapy session is open. How's everyone doing? Let's talk. I'm like, okay, I'm just like constantly exhausted and I think I'm like burnt out. Like I don't talk about work often because like I know this is temporary for me. So no matter how shitty it is, I'm like, okay, I only have 6 more months here, but I'm just gonna get it over and done with and then I'll be done. But I definitely am in a very toxic work culture. I feel like that's just how it is in general here. And that has made it a little bit better on me, where I'm just like, okay, it's not that bad if I take into the context that like every single school is probably like this here, even though I feel like I should get paid more for like a lot of the things that I do and like how toxic the work culture is. Like I'm okay with turning a blind eye and just like doing what I need to and then like clocking in, clocking out.
See, this is why not you specifically, in general, can't glorify something that you don't, like, you never gone through, I guess, because, like, that's the struggle with Korea, like, or, like, Asia in general. It's one, it's like toxic work culture. 2, you get hella burnt out, but you can't do anything about it. 3, people still struggle to find jobs, even if you go to a good college and graduate and, have everything on your resume. And I know work just really, really takes a toll on you and there's nothing you can do about it. We're privileged here, like for sure. That's where the guilt part comes in about like work. I just know I want to be doing something else, but I love my team. I love the prioritization of like mental health and like stuff like that. So that's where the guilt aspect comes in of, well, I should shut up and just do work.
Do you regret going to teach?
No, I always think about this because I had that other school's offer, and like between that school and this school, would I regret like choosing coming to the school? And I don't think so. In hindsight, like they actually don't care when I clock in and clock out. They don't really hover like that. It's just having to like basically accept that I'm inferior to them. That's like really toxic for me because I'm just like, in America, if like half the stuff that happened here happened, I would say something or at least like, you know, not work there anymore. It's something like that.
Damn, is that like
Yeah.
all the like it's the stigma of Asian culture? Like all just brewing in a pot. Like you can't talk back to your elders even if you should stand up for yourself. In that case, keep your head down. If you have nothing nice to say, don't say it at all. And just
Yes.
Yeah.
Have you guys ever heard of the 966? It's like you work from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. 6 days a week.
Oh hell no, bro.
6 days a week, so they work like Saturdays too.
Dude, I swear, like TikTok just knows what you're going through because I've been seeing a lot of like corporate TikToks. I've also seen like capitalism TikToks where people are talking about how, you know, basically the capitalistic society of having to work and it not being rewarding and blah, blah, blah. And then the millennials and boomers being like, you should be grateful for your job and we had to work so much and blah, blah. Bro, it's not, I think the biggest thing is it's not like we wouldn't put our time and energy into something that we want to do. Like, for example, Christine, I know she works way more than 40 hours a week because she's passionate about it, right? It's just we're not passionate about it.
Dude, that's the thing. It's like sometimes I feel like my parents think I'm lazy because they're like, you don't want to do this, you want to do this. But in my head, it's like, I'm not lazy. Like, if I was to do content full time or if I was doing something that I was really passionate about, I don't mind working.
I feel like this is where the pandemic comes in, where it's taking a toll on your brain. Because part where I struggle with is, okay, I know that I want to do X, Y, and Z, yet I'm still not doing it because I'm not motivated to do it. I know I want to do these things, but there's something in my brain that's just like exhausted, burnt out, and unmotivated. I don't know. And then Vicky sent that term of languishing, and I was like, it's this. This
Yes.
is me.
Till this day, I'm just like, this is the most accurate post that I've read basically all of quarantine. So there's this post on Instagram that talks about how there's a feeling called languishing, and the way they put it is the neglected middle child of mental health that can dull your motivation and focus, and it's like an emotion that you feel. So what it is like a sense of stagnation and emptiness. It feels as if you're muddling through your days, looking at your life through a foggy windshield, and that's like exactly how I think all of us feels, where it's just like we're going through our days and it's not like we're sad and it's not like we're super happy, but we're like right in between most of the time. And then some days we feel like one emotion more than the other.
Basically, is like languishing is in the middle of thriving / flourishing and depression, right?
Yeah, like you don't have symptoms of mental illness, but you're not the picture of mental health either. You're not functioning at full capacity. So languishing dulls your motivation, disrupts your ability to focus, and triples the odds that you'll cut back on work.
I think it's also just so frustrating because, at least for me, I always want to find a reason to what I'm feeling. Sometimes it feels so hard to pinpoint why exactly am I feeling this? Like, why am I feeling so unmotivated? Why can't I do this? Why can't I do that? But another part of my brain is like, well, because, you know, you're like stuck at home, like you haven't seen people, like your mental stage is not on track. And then another part of me just like, is that an excuse? Like,
Yep. Dude, it's
and
the
just like
tug
what
of
Sharon
war
said,
thing.
like this tug of war.
Yeah.
Do you guys feel that like, because COVID, like you can't see people, you can't go out, you can't like basically have hobbies outside of your home. Do you think that without the knowledge of COVID, basically, like if it didn't exist and you had your current job, would it be better for you guys because you actually can have distractions? Because I feel like a lot of people now are like having midlife crises about their jobs or like quitting or like literally just cannot do corporate or whatever job they're at anymore because they have nothing to distract them from work.
No.
Oh, really?
I think if we didn't do our podcast, then maybe, because I wouldn't have found that I really, really enjoy like content creating or just in this like creative field.
I almost boldly want to say it'd be the opposite for me, where it'd be worse if it wasn't for COVID and like quarantine, because I feel like everyone else may potentially thrive while I'm still not. And then I would question why, versus in this case, I feel like a lot of people are having realizations and going through similar things where I feel like I'm not alone in the process. And if anything, the realization came faster of what I want to do, I guess. Like ultimately, I really do believe like everything happens for a reason, and eventually this will be like a thing we can look back on and laugh. It's just right now that's not the case, obviously.
Yeah. Like I love my parents, but I don't understand why they don't understand the idea that like you gave me a great life and you gave me all these opportunities for me to pursue something that I love. That was why they sent me to college, and that's why they want me to like do all these things. Obviously, like make a stable life afterwards, but it's just like because you sacrifice so much, I'm able to have these privileges. And isn't that what you should like be happy about, maybe in a sense? But it's just like I'm not surviving. I'm like doing what I actually want to in life because you gave me the opportunity to do so.
Yep. I
It's
agree.
almost like parents, at least for my parents, is like, oh, they like support, they say these things, but at the same time, they have this box that they have the mentality in. They say these things, but they're thinking about other things. They are thinking, she should be this, she should be that. Why should she complain
Yeah.
about certain things?
Dude, yeah, and it's like we look at our parents, or maybe I can't speak for all, but like I look at my parents and I wouldn't define the life that they live like the best thing, you know? Like I wouldn't say they're 100% happy, they love their jobs, they love their way of life. And so I guess it's rooted in their mindset of like the purpose of living is to work and pay bills and have children and you retire and that's it. And I'm like, it's not like I don't think it's a generational thing to think like there's more to life than just that. So if I'm going to be putting my time and energy into something, might as well it be for something that I enjoy doing, right? Like that just naturally makes sense, which is why even now I'm like, if I don't live the life that I love, then I don't want children because they shouldn't be born into something like that.
Exactly.
Like I wasn't asked to be here kind of thing, you know? So let
Yeah.
me do what I want as long as it's not illegal, you know?
Yeah,
So
exactly.
yeah.
This is our grind where we just got to prove that like we know what we want. We just got to do it and like hustle for it.
We know what we want, but at the same time, we're very lost because we haven't taken that first step yet. Like, we don't know what's in there. So I feel like this podcast so far is a good depiction of how our brains have been working. It's just been very scattered.
It's very honest. Like this isn't
Yeah.
as real as it gets here, to be honest.
Yeah.
I think also like we know the things that we want to do, right? Like content. Let's say we want to do content. Obviously, it takes time and energy, which we're okay with devoting to. Here's where I'm struggling with. When I was living at home and obviously I wasn't paying rent or anything, I was so for like I was telling Jam like quit by your 1 year mark, which already passed by the way. So at the time we thought she was going to be done with corporate and she's not, by the way. I was like, Jam, like your mental health comes first, like you know exactly what you want to do. Quit no later than a year and just grind for you to do content or like apply somewhere else and all these things, right? I moved out of the house. I'm paying rent now and I'm like, damn, I need to all those words because would I quit with no plans, no financial plans? Like that's what I'm struggling with, you know? Like I know I can get there. I know I can do it. It's just the logical side of us is like I want to be that person that's like I quit corporate to blah 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 blah, but then I'm like right now, like I could quit. And if I did quit, what I would do is I would put my 40 plus work hours into content creating, like on my own, but also recruiting somewhere else. And it would be for like a smaller company or somewhere that I'm passionate about, I would do. And I'm thinking there's no way that that would disappoint me, but there is a possibility, you know?
But then that's like everything.
Exactly. Tug and war, ma'am.
Okay, I'm gonna be the devil's advocate to this just because I'm in kind of the same boat. I feel like knowing Sharon, like, what if recruiting gets you really stressed out? Because, you know, yes, you do have a big company, but recruiting at the end of the day is still, it takes time. And what if that stresses you out and you don't want to do content, you know, because you're not in that right mindset. And then that makes you more stressed.
I'm going to be my own devil's advocate in that like I don't think I've ever recruited for a company like hardcore where I'm like I really want to work here. At the time I did it because it's the big 4 or like these are dream jobs, quote unquote, in like college. But now if I'm recruiting, like I'm not just going to apply wherever I want. I mean, wherever is available. It's going to be for the companies that I actually want to work at and talk to the people that work there to see if it aligns with what I want. So I feel like in that case, sure, it might be stressful, but it'd also be really exciting. Easier said than done.
Or you can start recruiting now because best time to look for a job is when you have a job because you can't be picky about it. You don't have that mental stress of like, I need a job right now. I feel like it just be easier on your brain.
I think this is also a fairly new thought too. Like I wasn't completely overworked until like a month ago. Next question. Has quarantine effed with our brains? Yes. Next
Yes.
question.
100%.
And honestly though, people probably think we're doing great. Like, okay, maybe not everybody, but like people wouldn't know that we're going through it, I feel like.
Yesterday, Olivia was like, "Oh, I thought you were thriving this entire time." I was like, "Nope, I'm just surviving." I mean, okay, to an extent, I think we are thriving in some aspects. Like we have the podcast.
Yeah.
That's all.
Exactly. And because we have the podcast, people think we're thriving. So if we didn't have it, would people think we're dying? Probably. Because I don't know how people would know what I'm doing if it wasn't for our podcast. Like I haven't posted
Oh, yeah.
since like forever. So that was our episode about quarantine, I guess, that went into 10,000 different directions, which hopefully makes sense. It was very as real as it gets here.
Exactly. Yeah.
And hopefully y'all are doing better than we are, because we wouldn't want this for anybody. But don't worry, because we'll come out thriving.
We're in it with you. That's why
Yeah.
this podcast was everywhere.
Exactly.
Because that's how our brain is right now.
At least now you know that we weren't thriving. So that was it for today. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and we will catch you next time. Bye.
Bye.